So interior, I went a little bit crazy. This is the Tamiya Burnt Orange. For the roll cage, I did a whole Pennywise theme, as you can see. So this is one of the NECA Ultimate figures. I had a few of them laying around. I basically just popped them up at the midsection. Had to create kind of a modified molded piece. And I had to mold onto the bottom here in order to get them to fit, and then secured them just with the screw actually isn't retaining much. It's just mostly in there because it attaches to an adhesive that I have on the inside of his body. These come with the Mitric RC kit. They're the backside of the lamps in order to light up the interior. Great fit, finish. They are bright to a level that's almost a little ridiculous, I think. It's kind of cool because at night they light up the inside, but insanely well. I mean, it almost looks like you're glowing on the inside, like he's driving around with his lights on. Other than that, had to add Georgie's little sailboat onto the front. Pennywise just making sure everybody knows he's A-okay on the drive. It's cool because the interior actually includes like a full-size steering wheel, which I thought was kind of interesting. It's something I didn't expect. Usually it's just a molded-in piece with the rest of the Lexan. This one isn't. And then I used, for the bottom, I was going to do a Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy Krueger kind of theme. So I got this washi tape for like $1, I think. I think it was on Amazon. In the perfect kind of Christmas pinstriping that reminded me of Freddy's jacket. But when he got here, just his head and his proportions, they were just a little bit too small, so he looked kind of funny and kind of like almost like a little kid. So it didn't work out. But Pennywise was just perfect, and like I said, I had an extra body laying around. I have another one of his molds, which I liked a lot better. I think it was from the It Tap Chapter 2. They just did a lot better as far as like the varnishing on the figure, the articulation, everything was a little bit better. So this one kind of just set in the fun toy box anyways. So I figured put him to good use, and he fits in there perfect. Clearance wise, everything, it just proportionally he looks great. I continued on the back, did the same thing. I coated everything with some Tamiya, the satin finish, so that way it wasn't so super shiny. Added just a little bit of dirt, grime. These are all done with my massive assortment of Tamiya little model paints, which I've slowly been collecting over time. And then of course we have the balloon. You can't have the clown without the balloon. This one's pretty easy. It's sitting on a wire, and as you can see, it actually moves. So whenever it's going down the trail, though, it's kind of hard to see because of the glare on any kind of recordings. On the actual camera, I'm sorry, in person, it works great. It looks awesome. It has just a little bit of detail. And then, I don't know, a nice little bloody rag to add a little bit of depth. Alright, so let's get this out of here and we'll go on to the exterior. Alright, what have I done to this thing? Honestly, not a ton. I've added a lot of exterior features. I love the color of this thing. It is much cooler gray. I know I said it kind of looked warmer before, but it was just because of the lights I was using. It's a nice, cool gray. Stickers are applied extremely well. I went ahead and I blacked out the top because honestly, that's what most Jeeps come with, is that kind of blacked out. I don't even know what the coating's called. I'm more of a Toyota guy myself. I added the Yeah Racing. It's a solid metal cage on top, so it goes all the way around. Comes and protects the front. One issue I did run into, where I actually had to drill into the body in here, which you can kind of see, just because of the fasteners and the way that the bolts mount, which were silver, which didn't look very good. So I swapped out some black hardware and some stainless, and just to help it sit lower. Otherwise, these brackets right here were actually sitting on the window themselves. So this is kind of the lowest I could get it, where it actually kind of mates a little bit more to where the actual body is. And honestly, that's about it. I mean, I detailed a little bit of the front, just added some depth to the grille, which is some Tamiya overpaint, and then lighting. So once again, here is that Mitric RC kit. It comes with their DG1 controller, which honestly is a lot bigger than I kind of anticipated it being. I run a lot of their like SQ1s in my drift cars, like simpler stuff. I got what is their DC something, their like high-end one in my actual kind of show drift car. This one, it's pretty nice. The tangle of wires is one thing that's always kind of bothered me with my Trick RC. They're not very clean. There's a lot of companies out there now that do multi-strand LEDs kind of all attached to the same kind of wire. And the fact that they coil all the wires, it might be great when you're doing like permanent wiring, but when it's something that has to move around a lot, it just takes up a lot of space. This is just rubber banded. It's normally fastened here on the inside and the side, kind of how they recommended spec. And it works. It doesn't always maintain memory, and as with all the Mitric RC products, I've noticed that certain programs don't work as advertised. every one of my controllers, and I've had, I'd say probably 20 different controllers. I've only ever had, I think, 2 that worked as advertised 100%. There's always some program on the inside that's like, oh, it's supposed to have brake lights functioning and then go into a high-low setting. That one won't work, but everything else works fine. Or honestly, it's always little things like that. Like with this one, everything works great except for the running light feature. The running lights do not work. It goes the low power, the high power with rock lights, but that's it. And another weird thing, even though this thing's a high voltage output, the brake lights. So they come with this cool little insert which kind of divides the brake light. You can't really see a nav when the light's on, you can, so that way it looks like a 2-segmented piece. They are super dim. So you can't even tell that they're on normal running. I did have that night shot, which you can see, so you'll be able to see that they glow. But that's about it. I'm hoping that once I get a 4-channel receiver and I plug in the actual like receiver function to show brake light connectivity, that it comes up a little bit brighter whenever the brakes are applied. Another thing I'm ever a really big fan of is the ones that use the balance leads in order to actually maintain power. And just, I don't know, I don't foresee these lasting very long. I mean, the solder job's fine, but it's super small. It's something that's constantly getting plugged in and unplugged, and I just worry that that's going to eventually snap off. Speaking of which, on initial install, I don't know if I can get it to quite focus so it's so close, but right here on this JST connector, you can actually see one of the pins right here is already starting to pull away, and that's something that was zip tied shut, so it was just from bouncing around. Not something I was super thrilled to see, but repinning stuff like that's pretty easy. Other than that, I mean, supposedly it's waterproof. I mean, I'm not going to submerge this thing and completely test and find out. But for what it is, I'm pretty happy, to be honest with you. Overall, didn't finish great. Just, like I said, some of that program stuff does get a little bit obnoxious. Oh, one thing I did forget to talk about, probably because you can't see it. In the rear, I added the Vanquish Heavy Duty Underdrive Kit. So it's only, I think, 9%. It might be 7%, but I'm pretty sure it's 9%. So it basically does the same thing by underdriving the rear as overdriving the front. Vanquish also makes an overdrive kit, but I have it in my Capra, and I believe it's 30%, but it's really aggressive. And as I said, this is mostly a trail truck, something I play around with, take my, when me and my daughter go hiking with her crawler. She's got a little CR12 Tioga. I just want something that can just climb around with her. Like, the Capra, the little guy sitting up there, it's definitely much more of my competition-esque crawler. But this guy, great trail truck. All right, so that's pretty much it. These are all the pieces put together. They reattach and break down relatively simple. It takes a few minutes, and sometimes it's not the most fun to do, but after working on something like the UDR that you literally have to remove 14 bolts to get to anything, it's really not that big of an issue. I don't overly mind it. I will say that overall I am extremely happy with this kit. If you were to ask me what do you have to do with the RTR out of the box to enjoy it as a great trail truck, I would tell you literally nothing. This is by far the best RTR release I think I've seen. Mostly, like I said, I run kits, so I don't have a lot of experience with RTRs, mostly through friends that have had them. And out of all of their kits, the moment you get it, you're like, oh, servo's gotta go, motor's gotta go, ESC's garbage, radio's garbage, links are usually bad. Usually, the Axial kits usually have those terrible plastic links. I mean, even their metal links weren't great in the beginning. Or plastic gears on the inside of the transmission. None of that was an issue with this. The stock servo handles extremely well for, like I said, trail truck duty. I'd never once had it really cause me an issue. I'd already purchased the Reef servo, so I kind of had to throw it in there because a little bit of a servo snob. But honestly, if I hadn't already pre-bought it, I probably wouldn't have. I mean, there's really nothing the stock one did that I needed to upgrade. The stock motor is awesome. It's a little bit faster than the 13 turn. But I like the low speed control, which you still had with the other one. It just, okay, I'm a sucker for a good brush motor too, and Holmes Hobbies makes like the tits. Interior went together pretty painlessly, and overall I am extremely satisfied with what Axial and Horizon Hobbies are coming out with now. Everything that they have is just super better. That's going to be the tagline for this video. It's all been super better. The only issue I had, man, I really wanted one of the new bombers, but okay, we're just not going to go there on that. And yes, to answer the question of is this thing now extremely top heavy, which is kind of the review we got, especially because once we started adding like the racing overhead, it is. It's really heavy. It does like to topple, it does like to tip, but that's kind of what I liked. I wanted something that added that kind of like drama aspect in order to having a trail truck without having to do anything extreme where you're really able to push it. Sometimes it's kind of nice to have something that is really limited. But I wouldn't even say that it's really limited. It just adds a lot of drama. Like, it reminds me a lot more of what it's like to drive a real truck where you're going sideways, cabs are heavy, and it starts tipping on you, and you really have to pay attention to where you're putting your wheels, where you're lining them up on the rocks, how you're balancing the front end. A little bit of overdrive kind of helps it feel a little bit more like an actual vehicle to me. But yeah, so far, top heavy, outstanding performance. Love the stock Firma ESC, not going to change that. Servo's done, overdrive, underdrive is done, motor upgraded, interior done, exterior started. That's where we're at. All right, so what's next? Right now I have on order the rear-wheel drive mount, the fenders, the snorkel, the full kit from Night Customs. I did go through Shapeways. I was going to buy a 3D printer with some of this money. Still in the works, but since I'm currently moving, I didn't want to have to move that as well and possibly risk damage anything. I'm debating between getting the rosin printer or a normal filament type. In fact, I kind of like to buy both. So more exterior mods coming. I would like to get some kind of solution to the front bumper, just sort of figure out something that maybe doesn't overhang quite as bad right here. It's not terrible, but something that hugs a little bit better, offers a little bit more protection. Something like a stinger on it would be great. The one I did get from RC 4-wheel drive was made for the old chassis, which doesn't work the same on this one because of the way the engine mounts are and the front third suspension link. The adapter bracket to it gets right in the way of having anything on the outside of the rails. So you have to have something with that two-post design. Other than that, I'm really happy kind of with where it's sitting. There's one thing I didn't mention. The tires. So I mentioned how they did performance-wise, how they were like in sand on rocks. They're okay. Decent, great for RTR tires. They're really big. 4.75 for this chassis, they rub constantly. Like, you accelerate hard, they rub. Any kind of flex, they rub right into the side of those fenders. I'm hoping the new Night Customs tubular fenders, two fenders, will kind of help that out a little bit as far as flexing. Otherwise, I really wish that they had more. Like a Class 1, it looks okay on it, but then performance goes down so far. I kind of want it to look like a beefy, built-up, lifted Jeep on some fat tires. But if you could come up with like a really solid, like 4.5 inch tire, I think would be perfect. Just drop it down. That 1/4 of an inch would make such a big difference on this thing. And that's about it for the tires. That was the one issue that I knew I needed to bring up in here, and I kept forgetting the whole time we were filming this. But and then I'm gonna get this put back together, and I will see you out on the rocks, hopefully in Salt Lake soon. If not, down here around Seattle.